another episode of Bikes with Drew. Today we're going to be putting on new tires. Tires are one of the upgrades that's going to make the biggest impact immediately when you put them on, seeing as this is what connects your bike to the earth, whether you're on the street or on the trails or anything like that. This is what's going to make all your contact. If you've got worn out tires, like your grip's not going to be as good and things like that, and it definitely makes a big difference having a good set of tires as opposed to having some cheap worn out stuff. So I was about to start this video and I actually realized that in my old patch kit I didn't have tire levers, which are, I'll explain in a second what those are. And I was like, oh man, that's super annoying. I know I had a good set of them. And then I thought to myself and I said, well, the only reason why I have a good set is because when I used to build bikes years ago, I kept a pair. Not everybody has that, is going to have those tools with them. So I went to the cheapest place to buy the cheapest kit possible. I went to Dollarama and I got this bicycle repair kit. And this comes with a set of tire levers and some contacts, or some rubber cement and some other tools and stuff like that. And we're going to go through this because the average person at home, if you're just getting into biking, is not going to have all these specialized tools that I have used in the past. So I'm actually a little excited because I'll get to show you the cheapest possible tool you can pick up and how we're going to change tires with it. All right, so here we have that kit I picked up from Dollarama. Let's go ahead and open it and see what we've got here. So it does come with 2 tire levers. We'll go over those in a second. Some rubber cement. That's actually a pretty decent size tube of rubber cement. That's like a multi-tool with different size nut heads in there. You've got an abrasive. I don't know what these. Oh, these are little sliders for on your. Oh, that's kind of cool. Little sliders for inside your cables for your brakes, and it's actually got quite a few patches in there, so it's not a bad little kit. But one thing is that these tire levers are made out of metal, and a lot of the better ones or the higher end ones will be made out of plastic. And the reason why that's important is that when you're taking a tire off the rim, if you're using a piece of metal, you're basically your metal on your metal rims, you're going to scuff them up and you're going to scratch them. So ideally what you want to use is a really hard plastic, and most of the, like I was saying, most of the higher end tools are a hard plastic. But there is a way that we can sort of modify these so that they're going to work really well, and we're not going to have to go and buy a more expensive pair. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now real quick. And all you need is some Gorilla Tape. So what we're going to do is cut ourselves off a piece of Gorilla Tape like this, and you have an end that'll have a notch cut into it and then a flat end, and we're just going to put that flat end like this, and we'll actually do both of them at the same time. So we'll go like that, and we're going to fold the tape back onto itself and make sure that sticks down real nice. So you'll end up with something like this. Now what we're going to do is cut away all of the Gorilla Tape that's around these, and essentially all we've done here is created a barrier on the tire levers from, instead of being metal on metal, now there's a layer of Gorilla Tape that's going to do most of the work. Now they're not perfect, and you know, if you do have the opportunity, I would say 100% buy a set of plastic ones, or if you're going to buy a kit or something like that, make sure it comes with plastic ones. I just wanted to show you guys this because I just ran out real quick before starting this video, and there's a Dollarama a couple minutes away and they had a quick set, but it had metal ones. So just wanted to show you that quick little tip. So now you've got tire levers that aren't going to be metal on metal. So now that we've got our tire levers that have been modified with Gorilla Tape to be a bit more protective of our rims, let's go ahead and set up the bike on the floor here. Most people won't have a bike stand, so I'm going to show you guys how I would do this on the ground. If you're worried about your handlebars or anything like that, I'm not sure how well you can see that, but I have a mat down so my handlebars aren't directly on the concrete floor here in the garage. It's not the end of the world, but that way that'll protect your handlebars from getting scuffed up, right? So what we're going to do, bring you around right here and give you a better view. All right, so to remove your quick release, you pull up on that lever, you loosen up the nuts on both sides, and once you have it loose enough, your wheel's going to slide. Usually it's fairly easy to get out. It's going to slide right out like this. Okay? So I'm going to bring you guys over this way. So now we got a bit better view of what we're going to be working with. Just make sure that you're not going to lose that so it's not on there loose or anything. This is my front tire. We'll do the front one first. So I just loosened up the cap on my stem here, and you can use a screwdriver. I like using a flathead. And what you're going to do is let all that air out now. So you'll see after a while your stem's going to want to start going up inside the tire. That means that you've got enough pressure out of there that you could safely remove this. So now I'm just going to go around and crack the bead, and what that means is that I'm pulling the bead of the tire away from the sidewall. And by doing that, you're just going to make your job a little easier later on, because essentially we're going to take this whole thing off. So I'm going to go ahead and remove just a bit more air to see if I can get any more of it out of there. But that seems to be good. This is where your tire levers are going to come in handy now. When you pull this tire back, you can use that tire lever to get up and underneath the bead, and you pull it over top of the rim like this. So pull the tire back, get underneath the bead, and then pull it up over top of that rim. And now when I slide it, it's going to pull that bead over the rim all the way around. And by doing that, you just got to make sure that you're pulling the bead off. You're actually taking the tire half off of your entire rim. So now the tire's actually sitting, if this is your rim and this is the tire, your tire's actually sitting like this now. So this whole side of it's off your rim. Sometimes you can go ahead and pull the other side off easily like I did there. So this whole thing comes apart, and you've got your tire and your rim separate now. So that actually came apart a lot easier than I thought it would. Anytime you're doing anything on your bike, if you have the opportunity to get in there and clean some stuff up, I noticed there's a little bit of moisture in here from the last time that I rode. So I'm just gonna run a shop rag through here just to get some of that water out and stuff that you don't want necessarily sitting inside your rim. Okay, so this is the old tire, and it has the old tube inside of it. So you pull this apart. Sometimes they get stuck in there, other times they come apart a lot easier. You're gonna have your old tire, your old tube, and your rim. Now that the tube's out, I can go ahead and release all the leftover air that's inside there, because you're going to want this to be as flat as possible for the next step. Okay, so we're going to give this a try. This should be good here. What we're going to do is we're going to line up. You find the hole in your rim where the stem goes, and you're going to put your stem back through that little hole there. And have your tube line up around again like this. Now, what some people like to do, which I used to, it depends on the tire. If you put your valve stem back on right now, that's gonna help prevent the stem from actually getting pulled back up through the rim. So it's a little bit of a cheat, but it definitely helps when you're working on your own bike and you don't have all the right tools and stuff like that. So we're now going to grab the new tire. Depending on what you buy, sometimes some tires have a front and a back, or they're the same tread front and back. This one has a front specific and a back specific. So if you look at the information on the side here, this will say 26 inch, 2.1 wide, and it's the front. So another thing about when you're working on your own bike, I mean, some of us like and care about how our bikes look, some don't. If you are putting on a new tire that has designs on the sidewall, best idea really, or I should say, well, not even best practice, is to locate the designs on your rim and then make sure that you line up the rim's design as well as the wheels design side by side. I find it just gives it a cleaner look. It'll look more professional, and it doesn't look as busy on the side of your tire. Then it looks a bit more organized. So now that we have these ready to go, we're going to slide our new tire back over top, making sure to get that tube up inside the tire as we go. And all we're doing right now really is just making sure that that tube gets back up inside of your new tire. So you work your way around slowly, work your way around, taking care not to pinch your tube anywhere. Okay. So that feels pretty good. Having a look at where the designs on my rim are versus the designs of the tire. I'm not that close, so we're just going to slide the whole thing like this. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So this is where it can get a little tedious. What you want to do is seat one side of your tire first. So it doesn't really matter whether you go to the inside or to the outside, but what you're trying to do is sit this bead back inside that rim that you just took apart earlier. So if you remember when you were sliding your tire or your tire lever around, we're just basically doing the same thing here and fitting that bead over top of your rim. As you keep going, it's going to be harder and harder, and you'll get to a certain point where you're going to have to use your tire lever to get it back. So you heard that little pop there. That's a good sound. That means that one side all the way around is now seated. So I'm just going to pull this a bit more over like that. And you'll be able to see that you're pretty much seated all the way around. Here you can do some final adjustments and sliding where you want those logos to sit over your rim. And now is the tough part. Now we're going to get the other side to do the exact same thing of getting that bead on the other side of the rim. There we go. So that looks good. We got both sides on, and the logos are pretty close to where my logos on the rim are close to the logos on the tires. So now that you're back on both sides with your bead, just want to make sure that everything lines up nicely. I did okay with having the logos where I want them. Sometimes you can slide it just a little bit, but that's pretty good for what I'm looking for. So now you can go ahead and put this tire back on your bike, and then we're going to pump it up. So when you're putting the tire back on your bike, just make sure you throw your disc inside your caliper on your brakes if you are running disc brakes. Same idea if you're running V brakes, just be careful. You don't want to damage anything. No rush or anything like that. Tighten up your nuts. Just like that. And tighten down your quick release. Make sure you're still spinning free. That looks good. So now we're going to put some air in this thing and see how it looks. If you've got a hand pump, that's cool, a floor pump. I like foot pumps, to be honest with you, but I mean, any kind of air pump will work. If you've got a compressor, that's even better. So you go ahead and attach to your bike tube there and pump it up. All right. so now that we're pumped up, go ahead and put the valve stem cover back on. Just like that. And let's flip the bike over and see how this looks. Looks pretty groovy. So now that we've done the first tire, let's go ahead and take off the rear tire. This one's going to be a little bit different because your derailleur and your chain and all that's in the way, but the same basics apply. You loosen up your quick release, and whether you've got a skewer design or if you have the fatter one, like if you're on a higher end downhill bike, it's the same thing. You loosen it up. Then what you want to do is pull your derailleur basically straight up like this. Let's see if we can give you a bit of a better view here. Straight up like this, and what that's going to do is it's going to release the tension on your, or it's going to pull the chain away so you can lift your wheel straight out like that. And then your derailleur just slaps back into place. So now you've got your rear tire off. Essentially the same thing that we just did is what we're going to do. You let all the air out, pull the bead off, keeping the tube inside, put the new rear tire on, line up the logos, pump everything back up. So I'm going to speed things up for that. You don't need to see me do it twice. Perfect. So now that the other tire's on, logos are pretty lined up there, you just do the opposite of what you did earlier. So your derailleur, you're going to want to pull that out of the way like so. Drop your chain back onto your rear cassette. Before you go ahead and tighten, oh sorry guys, you couldn't see that. Before you go ahead and tighten up anything, go ahead and just give your pedals a turn to make sure that you are sitting on the chain properly and everything's in working order. So that's spinning free. I'm going to go ahead and tighten up my skewer again and then put some air in. And there you go. So now that both tires are back on, it's a good idea to give them a spin and just take an eyeball and make sure that that bead is sitting inside the rim everywhere. If you see any big warps, or if you're watching your tire and it's doing this, usually that means that your bead is not seated properly. So just go back and work it. And then once both tires look good, they've got air, super important, take it for a quick little rip down the straight even, just to make sure that everything's in working order. And yeah, I mean, you just change the tires on your bike. It's pretty easy to do. I'm obviously a little warm. It's a more humid day here today. But yeah, again, basic tools, $2 kit from Dollarama just to get the tire levers, and a floor pump. You can change the tires on your bike. Yeah. I don't know how well you can hear. I just turned to open up the garage door here. So new tires are on the bike. Everything looks nice. I'm going to take it for a quick tour up and down the street just to make sure that everything's sitting properly. My brakes aren't rubbing, my tire, the bead is sitting properly. And yeah, I mean, super easy to do. Again, guys, it's nice to have the proper tools when you can or when you're used to doing them. But I'm glad I got to show you how to do this with some cheap $2 tire irons, and I was able to get the job done. So thanks again, and yeah, stay tuned for the next one.